It is so interesting, the difference in the relationship to time in terms of strategy between the projector and the reflector. The projector waits in an open-ended framework for its invitation. The reflector has a time frame. It has a clock. There really isn't anything like reflector. They are a minority of around 1% of the human population, but after all, that's about 60 million people, so it's a lot of human beings. And reflectors are obviously different from the moment that we look at their design, because in fact, everything is open. And in essence, that gives one the sense that the reflector is so deeply conditioned by the world around it. And yet its framework is different. After all, it is genetically designed as a vehicle to be totally conditioned in that sense. And so there is no counterpoint. You know, the conditioning of open centers when you have definition, you know, is enormous, because it is the counterpoint to what is truly fixed in you. There is no counterpoint for the reflector. And so the reflector is here to be in the conditioned environment. And in being in the conditioned environment, being in an environment that operates cyclically. These are lunar beings. They are tied to the lunar cycle. And that means that their consciousness program is tied to the lunar cycle. You often see it written in descriptions that they have to wait for the cycle of the moon, or they have to wait the 28.9 days that it takes the moon to go around the wheel in that sense. It's very important to see that it's not so much the timing, that the fact that what they're really going through is they're going through a microcosmic journey around the wheel. And they do that regularly on the lunar month. In other words, the way in which a reflector operates is that if you could compress a lunar cycle down to one day, you would really have an image of them. You see, they have all these open centers, but those open centers are full of gates pointing in all kinds of directions. As the moon goes around the wheel, the fastest object in the wheel, the fastest programming agent, every 10 to 12 hours as the moon is moving, another gate opens and another gate closes. And in terms of the reflector, a definition here and a definition there. But it's not chaotic. It's the same program every lunar month. So in terms of the strategy of making decisions for the reflector, it's just time. And the time is about allowing them to go through all of the different stages of what is awareness as a process for them. And that means allowing all of those definitions to operate in their cycle as the moon goes around. It's fascinating when you look at that. If you're a reflector, look at the cycle of the movement of the moon around the wheel. Then take each of the channels that it defines as it moves and just read them one after the other. Just read them one after the other. And you will see that no matter where you start and no matter where you finish, this is your process of how you take things in. The other thing for the reflector is how important place is. For no other type is place so essential. And in recognizing that in its openness, the reflector takes in the program, it also takes in the program relative to those around it. In other words, more than any other being, it is the reflector that is here to understand the impact of the program on anyone. At the core of strategy for the reflector is through the process of going through lunar cycles to find within themselves an answer to the most profound of all questions. Am I in the right place?